The Toolbox Killers, a nightmare in Southern California. Close your eyes for a moment and try to imagine the most disturbing criminal profile an FBI special agent has ever created. They've seen the worst of humanity: Ted Bundy, Jeffrey Dahmer, John Wayne Gacy. Yet one individual stood out, a subject so profoundly, monstrously sadistic that a veteran FBI profiler, John Edward Douglas, described him as the single most disturbing individual he had ever studied. This man, along with his partner, earned a chilling nickname, the Toolbox Killers. And here's the most horrifying fact that anchors their legend. They didn't use guns or knives as their primary instruments of terror. Their weapons of choice were mundane, domestic objects. Things like pliers, ice picks, and sledgehammers. The very items you might find neatly stored in a toolbox in your own garage. These implements were turned into tools of unimaginable torture and murder, all within a terrifying 5-month spree in the summer and fall of 1979 in Southern California. This is the story of Lawrence Bittaker and Roy Norris. Part 1. The Genesis of Evil. The year is 1979. Southern California is bathed in sunshine, a land of freedom, beaches, and boundless promise. But beneath that veneer of idyllic American life, a darkness was brewing. Born not in the shadows, but within the walls of a correctional facility. Lawrence Sigmund Bittaker and Roy Lewis Norris, two career criminals, found each other in prison. Bittaker, older and with a violent history stretching back to his youth, including stabbings and armed robbery, was the dominant, controlling personality. Norris, younger and serving time for rape, was the follower, the easily manipulated sidekick. They talked about kidnapping young women, taking them to remote mountainous locations, torturing them using a variety of instruments, and ultimately murdering them. They were building a manifesto of depravity. When they were released, Norris on parole in January 1979, and Bittaker just a few months later in April, their shared fantasy was finally unleashed upon the world. They were free. Armed with a chilling plan and in search of a vehicle, they settled on a white 1977 Dodge Tradesman van, a perfect, anonymous steel cage on wheels, complete with dark-tinted windows, making it an ideal mobile torture chamber. Part 2. The first tools are used. The spree began in June 1979. Bittaker, the mastermind, and Norris, the compliant accomplice, drove their ominous white van through the suburban sprawl of Los Angeles. They were hunting. Their first victim was Lucinda Lynn Schaefer, a vibrant 16-year-old girl. She was walking home in Redondo Beach when she accepted a ride from the two men, a mistake that cost her everything. They drove her to a remote area in the San Gabriel Mountains. The details of what followed, the multiple assaults, the torture inflicted with the items from their toolbox, the methodical brutality, are almost impossible to comprehend. They didn't just kill her, they systematically destroyed her. Lucinda's body was never found. Her disappearance was a chilling ripple in the community, the first sign that a predator was stalking the streets. The second victim, just 3 weeks later, was Andrea Hall, a 18-year-old hitchhiking in San Bernardino County. The pattern was horrifyingly repeated. The abduction in the white van, the drive to the desolate mountains, the agonizing torture, and the murder. Like Lucinda, Andrea's remains were not immediately recovered, further complicating the police investigation. It seemed as though the two killers were unstoppable, their methods leaving no trace but the gaping hole of a missing child. Part 3. Escalation: the tape. The time between the murders became shorter, the crimes more brutal. The thrill, for Bittaker especially, was in the escalation, in pushing the boundaries of human cruelty. Tape recorder. The tape recorder was Lawrence Bittaker's most chilling vanity. He wanted a memento, an auditory record of his power and his victim's terror. What was recorded on that tape is considered one of the most disturbing pieces of evidence in the history of American true crime. It captured the sounds of the girls pleading, the men's cold laughter, and the awful sounds of their final moments. Part 4. The Cracks in the Cage. 5 girls, 5 months. An arsenal of sadistic tools. The terror seemed endless. But every partnership built on pathology has a fatal flaw, and in this case, it was Roy Norris. Norris was the weaker link, driven by fear and dependence on Bittaker, but also riddled with an underlying terror of the death penalty. After the last murders, a massive police operation was underway. Detectives were frantically piecing together the few common threads: a white van, hitchhiking teenage girls, and a complete lack of physical evidence at the dump sites. The break in the case came not through forensics, but through an old acquaintance of Roy Norris. Part 5. The Trial and the Tape. The trial of Lawrence Bittaker was a watershed moment in legal history, not just for the sheer depravity of the crimes, but for the use of the audio recording. Roy Norris's testimony was instrumental. He detailed the fantasies they shared, the planning, and the sickening use of the tools: the pliers, the wire, the electrical cords, the ice picks. He walked the jury through the last hours of 5 innocent lives. But it was the moment the prosecution played the audio recording in the courtroom that forever sealed Bittaker's fate. The sound was so appalling, so inhumane, that it elicited a profound reaction. Jurors and even seasoned lawyers reportedly wept. The judge had to order a recess to regain control of the room. This was not a story of circumstantial evidence. This was the victim's last agonizing testimony played for all to hear. Lawrence Bittaker was utterly remorseless, maintaining a cold, arrogant demeanor throughout the proceedings. On March 24, 1981, a Los Angeles County jury convicted Lawrence Bittaker of 5 counts of murder and multiple other charges. He was sentenced to death. Roy Norris received his life sentence, never to be paroled. Lawrence Bittaker spent decades on San Quentin's death row, known as a cold, calculating prisoner. He was sometimes sought out by criminologists like Maura Brand, who spent years corresponding with him, hoping to glean any information that could lead to the recovery of Lucinda Schaefer and Andrea Hall's remains. Even in his final days, Bittaker toyed with the idea of revealing their locations, using the information as a last-ditch attempt at leverage, a final assertion of control over the victims and their families. He died of natural causes in prison in December 2019, taking the secrets of his 2 missing victims to his grave. Roy Norris died just 2 months later. The case of the Toolbox Killers remains a chilling benchmark for sadistic serial murder. It is a stark reminder that some of the greatest evils are committed not by monsters from a horror film, but by men who weaponize the ordinary, turning a simple domestic toolkit into an emblem of pure, unadulterated terror. The casual, planned brutality shattered the illusion of safety in Southern California and forever altered the way people viewed 2 men in a white van. The story of the Toolbox Killers is one of immense tragedy and unanswered questions. We've seen how their partnership enabled them to commit unspeakable acts, but it also became their undoing. I want to know what you think. Head down to the comments and tell us. Do you believe that Roy Norris, by testifying against Bittaker, was truly seeking justice or simply desperate to save himself from the death penalty? Should his plea deal have been granted? Lawrence Bittaker died without ever revealing the locations of Lucinda Schaefer and Andrea Hall. For the families of missing victims, is an admission of guilt or the successful recovery of remains more important for closure? The FBI profiler called Bittaker the most disturbing individual he ever profiled. What aspect of the Toolbox Killer's crime, the use of common tools, the audio recording, or the planning, Do you find the most profoundly disturbing?